Thanks as always, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech. 3, 2, 1. Matador Mob Mailbag Overtime Edition kicks right back in just like that. Chris, let's get back to the question for Mike, Ron, and Joe. Can we keep Christian Anderson as a Red Raider? And do we have any shot at getting his younger brother on campus? Do you have familiarity with the younger brother?
Yeah, I mean, not a ton. I mean, obviously, I know that that there's a family component that's moved to Lubbock, and I think that, I mean, I think that there was already kind of some curiosity before the season even started. Like, hey, man, I think we got us one here. Like, this may look like a bit of a different, and it's really, that's only increased. I don't know what all this is going to look like. I think that this is a great situation for Christian and the entire group. And I think I have not seen a young player with this much IQ that wants to be coached and is willing to be coached like he is really come through here without so much as, you know, I'm going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to have weird body language or, you know what I mean? And that this is rare with this generation of person or in this case player, because he enjoys it. It's just a really good fit right now. I think the price tag will change dramatically. Yeah, I do. And I think it needs to. I mean, that's you because, I mean, look at it, Callan. I mean, look at what you're about to have to replace here. If there's all been so much talk about continuity and keeping certain pieces and all that, but of your 8-man rotation right now, you may theoretically only have Christian Anderson, Federico, and Kevin Overton back on this team next year. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, no.
You must have cut out for a second. I thought you said.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
With what we're seeing of JT Toppin, it's great and enjoy it because you may not see him much longer. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean, you don't, if you're a first rounder, and this is what he came here for.
Yeah, it's kind of how you want it to work, right?
Yeah. Hawkins is exhausted his eligibility after this year. Kerwin Walton's exhausted his eligibility after this year. Darion Williams has a choice to make. That may be one that you I don't know, but you may want to try to have to get that decided way before he's ready to. So, and then Chance McMillan is exhausted his eligibility. That's a lot of folks. So I would say this is why you're going to get questions on, can you build this thing around Christian Anderson? Because he would be the diamond there that you would want to surround people with. And like, God, like imagine trying to rebuild it without him being a part of it and then losing all the rest of those guys. I mean, that's a start all over type scenario. Not interested. And nothing against Jazz Henderson or Mariella Kuntak or Leon Horner. None of those guys are ready to like step in here and be what you're, a heavy lifter and all that. They're going to need to be eased into this. So Christian Anderson would be the focal point, certainly. So whatever it takes. As far as the younger brother goes, I mean, he's in a program with Grant's oldest son, Jet, right now. And so, yeah, there's a lot of connection and a lot of continuity possible. We'll just kind of see what happens there.
Is he a Big 12 level prospect? I'm ignorant on this for the most part.
And I guess I will reserve comment on that for now. I think that's a good question. I think that's fair. I don't know. I have a harder time now with because it's one thing on whether you're one now, you will eventually be one,
right?
And you start weighing it out on, like, you could say there's a Big 12 prospect out there you could get right now. Well, do you need that, or do you need the fourth or fifth year guy? Do you need the Mountain West Freshman of the Year guy that's already been through the wars in college for a year or two? Or do you want to? You see what I'm saying? So, we'll just. But
that's another layer, actually, to consider now engaging a.
Well, it's what does your team need? But I would say this: he's got a lot of good going for him because that family just seems to know what's up. Right? I mean, well trained, physical, mental, all the stuff that comes with it. So I would say that odds are probably so. Yeah, I mean that's probably not a huge stretch.
Yeah, and if P.S. as somebody with a 1-year-old and about to have another hit at the ground this summer, any Cliff Notes that you'd be willing to let me borrow? I'd love to have a look at them. Just throwing that out there. All right, thank you guys for that question. This one from Chase, who's going football. Could you talk about how much deeper you think our defensive line will be this season? And do you see opportunity for homegrown guys like O'Philly or Eddie Smith to make an impact? And of course, given what's been added there, seems even more difficult or a little bit more crowded.
I would say that there is some thought that this is going to be one of the best defensive lines this program has trotted out there in many, many years.
All right. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. And I don't say that as in, because you don't have a Tyree Wilson, like a draft pick sitting there that's going to be a top 10 guy. I think that the activity level, the depth, the experience, and it's kind of a beautiful mesh here because you do have like ready-made that you're going to plug in and your 3 additions, and then Romello on the interior. That I think that there's some versatility there, but then Romello Hyde off the edge. But then your Spencers, O'Phillies, Smiths, all those guys, and then you add back in Adedire and Isaac and all that. I mean, there's a lot to work with here, and we'll see kind of what happens as we go through the spring and what it looks like, and if that gets trimmed, or if anybody decides, man, I'm never getting on the field here.
Yeah, I'm jam possibility too.
A little, but I'm here for it, man. That's after just watching the Super Bowl and watching the Eagles' defensive line dominate this. I mean, if Jalen Hurts won the MVP, but if he could, split that up into pieces of pie and give one each to those 4 defensive linemen that played the bulk of the snaps, I mean, they owned, controlled, dominated this game, and that's the beauty of it. And they didn't have to blitz. So it's like a cheat code when you can do that, and you don't have to get all exotic and do all this crazy. Like when you're just better in mano up front, it's amazing how much better everything gets and all that. But no, you're loaded up front. I mean, it's if everybody stays healthy, yes, you are.
And your secondary also got better the day that got better, like you're pointing to there. Chase, Tommy, and we also had Alex also asking about, since we're on that subject, next portal window, are we still looking defensive line edge help? Are we talking speedy wide receiver? Are there, types of prospect that are higher on the radar or higher on the list?
I mean, I'm not going to rule anything out. I think some of that, yeah. I mean, we talked about this, that if there was another edge player, specifically like a pass rushing specialist, that's going to be a case-by-case basis. If there's somebody out there that's like no-brainer, now you and everyone else is going to go, yeah, we'd like to be in business with this individual. So I would offer it up that way. I think receiver, you may be willing to sit tight right now. I think it may be time for some of your youngers to kind of take this next step. And I think that from the speed standpoint, I think that, Jacoby Williams is going to now play a little running back, a little slot. So that kind of changes the dynamic there. And I think you're ready to watch him blossom and kind of flourish into that next thing and get him more time and snaps on the field and whatnot. So that kind of, because he's about as fast as you're going to get.
I'm telling you. Yeah, you're talking about blossoming like a flower, and I'm thinking one we're watering with nitroglycerin. Dude is explosive. He was hyped to be that way. Before he got here, he was hyped to be that way in fall camp by his head coach, and then he was that way. He lived up to that billing, man. Yeah.
So and then the last way I would say that is like, let's just see how the spring goes and see what happens with your team and what's out there. It's a really tough. I don't think you go in going, okay, we know we're going to need this or that. I don't think you're there anymore. It's a case by case basis, and then some of this will, and your needs could change based on what you have or don't have in the spring, or kind of who leaves you, who you decide to move on from. who gets hurt. I mean, there's all kinds of dynamics at play here, but that's the beauty of that other window, is that if you have some needs to fill, you'll have an opportunity to go do it.
All right, thank you for that question. This one from Jonathan: is ESPN phasing the Big 12 out? We got too many great games relegated to ESPN Plus, and/or no games available during Saturday 11 a.m. slots, and they're forcing their preferred conference down our throats.
Well, you're
something, right?
Yeah, your checks are still cashing. You went into this with this agreement. You knew that that was the spillover. They are allowed to do these things, and I think that Brett Yormark has tried to sublease some things, basketball content, to CBS Sports Network, so it can be brought to more mainstream.
Which, Chris, you don't get to see this, but you may have watched a road game. I can't remember if we had one on CBS Sports. No, you're calling these games. I'm an idiot. You don't get to see any of this. I really enjoyed the CBS Sports Network broadcast. And
yeah,
very professional. They got in studio, whether at the arena, whatever. I really enjoy it. I don't know if anybody knows where CBS Sports Network is, but
it's on most cable providers as a regular channel, I think, in a lot of cases, or a slightly upgraded sports tier. But it's more common than I think it used to be. For Arizona State, they brought in a CBS crew, Gary Parrish, who I listened to him, and I've listened to him for years. He's one of the talking heads as far as college hoops in an all year round basis. And they were kind of trying to train a lot of their people on camera and behind it on, this is what an NCAA tournament broadcast is going to need to look like, with some of the bells and the whistles, in-game interviews, stuff like that. And I agree with you. But this is what Yormark has said. Okay, they've made some trades and kind of agreements off to the side that has allowed for that. I think in the football in the fall, you're going to get some TNT and TBS games in the same vein, and it just makes you wonder, as we start talking big picture, because see, Yormark, one, he's helping Big 12 fans in general, making their content more accessible. Okay. And you're bringing in another potentially interested party into negotiations in the future. And so it's kind of a win-win for everybody right now, but it's also kind of like, hey, let's dance.
Yeah.
And I think I would expect a bit more of this tweaking and whatnot. So, we'll kind of see where we go. But as far as, is ESPN phasing you out? No, they can't. No, they're paying hefty dollars for this content. If they want to put it on ESPN Plus, that's their prerogative. I hate it as much as anybody.
Yeah, we all do.
And I can't change the channel, and it's frustrating. And my wife's always like, hey, where's this game on? Like the other night, it was Arizona and Kansas State, and that happened to be on Plus. I'm like, the country's being cheated out of a phenomenal potential bit. But I sat there and I watched it. I mean, at least I could see it and all that. But yeah, that's how I guess I would answer that.
That's one good thing I like about I have Hulu Live and have for live television for a little while, and it ain't perfect by any stretch, but they do have the ESPN Plus integrated into their channel guide. So it's kind of like just scrolling through you would otherwise, but I know it's not like that for every platform, so it can be quite a pain. And I don't think it is any just like a non-impactful coincidence that, say, the SEC is featured here or there. So I'll share a little tinfoil with you there on that part of the question. But the only beef so far with CBS or CBS Sports Network, you guys need like an ESPNU or news for when these games don't freaking start on time. And right now it's about going to an app and we're signing up and hit the website, and that's too much. And that was kind of an issue for the Arizona State game the other night. But either way. All right, thank you for that question. I think we could just about wrap her up. Hayden asks if there was any restaurant in the world you could bring to Lubbock from anywhere you've been. Does one stand out to you?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to go Asador Fogón Argentino in Mexico City, one of the best steakhouses I've ever been to, Chris.
Okay.
Homeboy, the waiter, sliced up my steak next to him. It's like one of those where you choose your cut as they're kind of walking around with all of them. You're like, yeah, I'll have a little of that. I'll have a little of that. He brings it right there. He's slicing it up. And I leaned over joking, opened my mouth. He fed me a piece. We looked at each other. He's a grown man, mind you, maybe 50 years old. I'm supposed to be a grown man. It was a little awkward, but he walked away after that. But it was an incredible experience.
Oh man, you know, I grew up in Fort Worth, and a couple of staples there that are actually both very famous. If I could like borrow them and have them here, because they are as much of a the food as much as like a like I don't know if it's the right word is tradition or just like a vibe or like a but Joe T. Garcia's or Angelo's barbecue.
Yes, sir.
And they are both famous for different reasons, and people can argue about if the food's any good or not. But that was uh, those were fun just to experience because that's what it is when you go to either place. There's some beautiful nuances to those two things, but that's kind of everybody may have their own here.
Those are great answers. I've experienced both.
Okay, yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, I mean, the president of the U.S. back in the day used to get Angelo's ribs, and I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, I just, yeah, and there's, you know, trophies all over the thing, and all these this old dusty, you know, thing on I think it's off of 7th Street, or I think is right, and kind of this in between downtown Fort Worth and part of the city and all that stuff. And then Joe T. Garcia's is just like this. Actually went to high school with some of the family that owns it, and that whole thing. I mean, I remember having people tell me that I graduated high school with. They're like, they were in college and they're going to either TCU or TCJC or UNT or whatever, but they started waiting tables at Joe T's, and they're like, I make like $100,000 a year. I'm trying to quit this job, but I can't. It makes way too much money, and that's like a Fort Worth staple that is like this hard to explain dynamic, and it may or may not be true. They've since filled it in that one of my family members, wasn't me, may have been overserved and fell into a swimming pool way back in the day, in front of lots of folks. Yeah, so there's just a little history, but yeah, shout out to Angelo's and to Joe T. Garcia's here on the secret mob edition of the.
That's right. You only get that on the OT edition of the Matador Mob Mailbag.
That's a true story. That's a true story.
Is built, it's not made to get into at some point.
Yeah, and they've since filled it in because I think this happened maybe too many times. So it's now they filled it in and put more tables on top so they could have more folks enjoying their lovely cuisine.
I think that was back when the mugs had holes in them because those things emptied out really quickly. Something was going on. All right, Chris, thank you for some extra time today, man. Have a great weekend. Thank you to all the Matador mobsters for being out there. Hope you'll join us for the next go round. Chris, safe travels, man, to Stillwater, and we'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. We will talk about that game coming up soon, and tricky, but hey, enjoyed it, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys being out there. It's time for us to payaso. Adios. We will see you on the other side as well. Thanks as always for being a Matador mobster. Have a great weekend. We'll see you for the next one.